Oh, what's happening, everybody? Trying to get back on schedule here for Mopar Chat Live late night edition. After the last live stream, I was a bit on a rant, and I will admit that, I was in somewhat rare form. Typically, I like to do that every once in a while just to blow off a little bit of steam, and in some cases, get a few things off of my chest. I wanted to give some kind of updates really for the channel, for the subscribers, both long time and some of you new guys out there. Let everybody kind of chime in. I'll start saying what's up to everybody, kind of the prologue here. So I'm going to be switching more to this live, either the late night edition or some of the earlier live broadcasts, I guess you could say, mainly because I love the interaction with everybody. Like talking about these cars, like talking about trends, rumors, things that are coming up in the marketplace. And hold on, let me turn the heat off in here. Coming up on the middle of December, and it actually got cold down here in Texas. Can't believe it. So anyway, I'm going to be doing more of these live shows than the other videos, like the My Thoughts and stuff like that. I'll sprinkle in some track videos, and I'll also be obviously showcasing my Hellcat Revlon, and just bringing you guys on my journey with that car. So the main thing I want to do though is keep the live shows going in preference to the other videos that I've been doing before. Kind of keeps the topics a bit more relevant, and with you, interaction with you guys, it just makes it a lot more fun for me, and hopefully it makes it a lot more fun for you guys as well. So let me give some shout outs real quick to everybody coming in. Kay Jonesy, what is happening? What's going on? Sherrod Nelson, what's good, my man? What's up? We got Texas Gas Pimp, hola, my friend. And we got D-Mob, A.B. Mason, how you doing, brother? I am doing very well, thank you so much. One of the things I wanted to talk about, got one more, Hondo, what is up? So one of the things I wanted to talk about is, why Mopar? And that's kind of the running topic, I guess, for this chat. The reason why I'm so pro Mopar as opposed to Ford or Chevrolet or maybe even some of the imports. One of the reasons why I've been so pro Mopar with the re-release of the Challenger in 2008, you saw really the direction that Dodge and the Dodge Daimler partnership, and then of course, going into the FCA era, you can see really the target audience that they're going for. And one of the things that I like the most about Mopar from a product point of view, this has nothing to do with marketing, this has nothing to do with anything other than the product itself. You always got the sense that Dodge was going to do their own thing. They were not going to be shackled by the comparative analysis that journalists would put these products through. And that, to me, by setting themselves apart in a way that is familiar but yet so dissimilar from where the market was headed at the time, keeping in mind the 6th gen Camaro didn't even exist yet, and the Mustang was, I don't know, it was the only sole torchbearer for the American muscle car crew. You could really see where the writing was, though, for Mopar. They were the anti-establishment, so to speak, where Ford at the time had their overhead cam engines and were really leaning more towards sophistication. Mopar brought back that old school muscle car look, feel, and in a lot of ways engineering, albeit with a modern flair with that fuel injection, computer controlled and all of that. But they brought back something that old school muscle car fans, the old school traditionalists, were very much wanting. They filled that vacuum very well. So for me, that basically solidified and really, if for no other way of describing it, rekindled my love for Dodge, because for those of us of a certain age, we had all but forgotten about Dodge because Dodge wasn't a player in that modern era. Well, fast forward about 10 years, and now you've got, well, The Hellcat, when it was introduced in 2015, the Hellcat is, to me, one of the most important cars to have ever been released. That Hellcat, alongside the Terminator Cobra and the GT500, truly set the bar moving forward. And for me, it made it to where you could look at a Dodge product and not only be amazed that they're releasing something with, at that time, the most horsepower you could get in an American V8 of 707 horsepower, but it really showed that that brand meant more than just the sum of the products that it was putting out for public consumption. It wanted to make a statement, and it wanted to give an image that was really more geared towards a blue-collar mindset. You always had the Viper. And I know that a lot of times the Viper gets forgotten about as far as an offering from Dodge from guys that don't really relate to a car that can cost that much. But keeping things into perspective, you know, the Hellcat gave Viper-like performance at a much lower price and in a car that was much more usable and relatable. So that, to me, really set off and really sparked my, I don't know, that passion again for Dodge, where I'd kind of lost it after I had gotten rid of my Vipers. It really, I don't know, I didn't know that I would ever go back. But, you know, to be honest with you, I can't see myself ever switching sides at this point. It, to me, means more that Dodge is putting these products out in the way that they are, with the marketing behind it. Again, with the Hellcat initially, then with the Demon, that marketing that does harken back to that old school vibe of muscle car, not sports car, not sporty car, but true, honest to goodness muscle car, in a way that really hadn't been brought to the public, or at least it had, but in very limited numbers and in limited scope with the GT500 from Ford. So at any rate, that's kind of one of the things I was thinking about before I started getting ready to put this live show together. Let's go through some stuff here. I know what up. Johnny Peters, like the sunglasses. Phoenix 98, sub brothers, telling everybody hello. Honda, always think about trading the Roush Mustang until I take it for a ride. Good point on that, Roush. You know, the aftermarket was always there to support the Mustang, and it's a good point to bring up, by the way. They were always there to support the Mustang because the Mustang was always there to support. You can't ever take that away from Ford. To you, chiming in with kind of a generic question here, but if you had only 2 Mopar vehicles you could own from any era, which 2 would they be? For me, he would go with a 68 Hemi Dart and a Gen 3 Viper TA. Okay. I like those. For me, the 2 that I would own from any era, first one would have to be a 64 Polara with the 4-speed with the solid lifter Hemi. That would be my number 1 from the original super stock Dodge, the car that put the Hemi and solidified the legend of the Hemi to the public. The second car that I would own, let me think for a minute. If we're talking muscle cars, it would either be, well, my Hellcat would be a good one to start off with. That would represent the second coming in a lot of ways of that super stock Dodge. You can take that a step farther with the Demon as well, being the next evolution of that old school mentality. But I've got to say that I would have to go with the Viper ACR, mainly because you would literally have 2 bookends of performance and the whole genre of, or the whole spectrum rather, of a driving experience. So those would be the 2 that I would go with. One that would scare the living daylights out of you while trying to run 9s, and the other one that would make you look like a hero going around a closed course. Ghost 74, this is pretty cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hondo, really like the look of the Challenger R. I guess you're saying RT. Looks like it might have cut you off there, but I'm a fan of all of them, so I'll have to agree. Texas Gas Pimp saying, hoping for a CUDA. Man, I tell you what, Hondo chiming in a Hemi Dart. Yeah, that's another good one too. So let's talk about that CUDA for a minute. You know, the rumors have been out for so long about that car that it's difficult to really start getting hype. There's different directions that people have said that car is going to go. And of course, rumor mills, you know, rumors run on jet fuel. And so, and it's just one of these things where I'm on a wait and see kind of status with that particular potential car to come out. I've heard all kinds of different rumors, guys, when it comes to the CUDA. I've heard that it's going to be a Viper replacement, basically a new Halo car for Dodge. I've heard that the CUDA would be replacing the Challenger. I've heard a lot of different rumors when it comes to that CUDA. All of them haven't been bad though. So either way that they go, it'll be exciting nonetheless to see what that CUDA means to the rest of the lineup for the LX platform lineup. If they're going to lighten it up, if that's going to go through its own evolution, or if they're going to run that car straight through until CAFE regulations say you just can't put it out anymore. So we'll see how that ends up panning out. Let's see. Ghost 74 says that he believes he will see a two-door Charger in the future. What do I think? I got to tell you this. I'm still a bit confused about the Charger name being a four-door. I would love to see a Charger, a two-door Charger, something that maybe has a little bit more of a retro look, or the Charger possibly taking the place of the Challenger and having maybe a bit more of a retro look, but a little bit smaller size. Who knows? I mean, I would love to see something like that. It's an organic, natural progression, though, of the brand. So, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see, but I'm with you on that. Hondo's saying 69 GTS. That'd be a nice one. I'll say that the GTX would be a riot to own. I love B-body cars. D-Mob asks, what would add to a C6? Let's see. Hold on. What would add to a G6 Grand Sport Auto info? It looks like this might have been a voice to text here. In terms of bolt-ons, improved drivability. My intent to use a car will be to drive it a couple days a week. I don't take it to the drag strip or for racing. So I guess really what you're asking is, what are the best mods to a C6 Grand Sport to get the best drivability, best overall performance? Here's what I would do if I owned one of those cars. First of all, let's go Cook's long tube headers, high flow cats. I would go with maybe a stage 1 cam because they're fairly easy to swap out from Texas Speed. And of course the springs to go along with that. Get the lifters because you're already in there. And I would obviously tune it to work with those components, and I would leave it alone after that. I think you'll find that if you go too aggressive with anything, and just keep this holds true for all cars, but if you go too aggressive with your camshaft selection and you are gunning for a number in terms of horsepower, you've got to remember that you're going to be giving up a lot down low to get to that number up top. Now, it is a bit more exhilarating to drive when you're pushing that vehicle at its limits in those upper RPM ranges. But the problem is that you lose so much in terms of throttle response, drivability, in some cases fuel economy. It's just really not worth it. My taste, so to speak, is more towards something that is a balanced package that is not overwhelming in any one specific area. Because a balanced package means that it will always perform well. It will never let you down. And trust me, you can still pick up 50, 60 horsepower to the rear wheels with a mild cam with those engines. You got to remember that there's nothing but potential with any of the LS platforms. Just, again, I would caution you, don't take it too far. Take my advice on this because I've been there and done that with the LS platform. I've gone a little bit overkill with a cam, made great power, tons of top end, but you know, I did lose a lot down low, and that also creates issues for tuning too. Makes it a bit more of a pain to get it to act right at idle. See, Jeffrey Bender, the Enforcer, thumbs up for a Elephant Scat Pack. Yeah, thumbs up for a Elephant anything. I'm glad to see that there's so much excitement over that engine. Marketing aside, but no, seriously, I'm glad to see that that shows product development. They're still developing the brand and they're improving the breed. So yeah, I love to see anything that helps to put Mopar on top and to stay on top of its competition, because believe me, they're not sleeping. They are absolutely spending plenty of money in their own research and development programs. Let's see, stole it again. What's up, everybody? Phoenix 98, double thumbs up. Jay Pummel, what up, brother? Let's see, True Dave finally made it to one of the live videos. Good to have you in. Life is Lee. Hey, B. Mason, did you swap out your drive shaft or do you still have stock? Good question. I did swap it out, ran into a problem with that drive shaft, took it out, sent it back to the manufacturer, and they are truing it up, rebalancing it, doing some work with the flanges, and I, fingers crossed, will have it back sometime around Tuesday or Wednesday. So the car is going to be going back up into the air. I will have the stock drive shaft out, basically have everything waiting to go onto that car so that when that drive shaft comes in, get that bad boy up there, torque everything down to spec, put it back together, get it on the road for a road test, which I'm definitely looking forward to. Again, fingers crossed, that bad boy does not turn my Hellcat to a 700 horsepower vibrator, and we will have smooth sailing from there so I can launch that thing super hard so I can try to get some 1050s. Gonna try to gun for maybe a high 40 with that car here in January. So obviously I'll be keeping you guys tuned in for that. Jay Puma got the arm flex. I like it. Thumbs up. Like the video so it reaches more peeps. Yeah, you guys get in there, smash that like button. Like, subscribe, share, however all that stuff works. D-Mob said he appreciates my feedback. I appreciate you being a part of the show. Go74. Anybody ever watched the Dukes of Hazzard and how the General Lee raced Boss Hogg's race car and it was called the Hellcat? Do you think the Dodge got the name from that episode? Actually, no. Dodge got that Hellcat name from the World War II Navy fighter called the Hellcat. Top tip on that. The Hellcat had the highest kill ratio of any airplane fighter or any fighter airplane from World War II. Stole it again. B, 09 Charger suitcase muffler delete. Your thoughts, do it as quickly as possible. That suitcase muffler is doing you no good for two reasons. One, it's not really helping you in terms of making any power. And two, the thing weighs just enough to snap your back when you try to pick it up. So, yeah, definitely either do that, delete, or, any cat back will be better than that suitcase. Believe me on that. And if you're going that far into it, might want to go ahead and throw on a set of headers and get it tuned, but don't put the headers on unless you have a tune or the ability to tune it. Slick S550 saying, what's up, Brian? What's up, Slick? True Day, do you think a 426 is still likely for mass production? I agree with your past statements about price points, especially now. Let's see, fitting between wide body scat packs and Hellcats. I am not really believing they're gonna release that 426. I will be happy if that statement is proven wrong, but for the money, the problem is that you're just not going to be able to get a significant horsepower bump without a significant amount of research and development going from 426 to 392. I personally believe that if that engine were to be released, it might be released for the last year of the Challenger and the Charger. That would be awesome, and it would be really awesome if that engine is making 550 horse, 560 horse, somewhere around 500 pound-feet of torque, maybe 520 pound-feet of torque. That would be amazing. If they decide to go through with it, that'd be fantastic. The problem is, though, money. To get it EPA registered, to get it the misuse, and abuse testing, it would have to go through so much to get to that point that I feel like it would almost end up being cost prohibitive on the tail end. But it's FCA, it's Dodge. You never know what they're going to do. And they've already proven that if they get a wild hair, they're going to pretty much do whatever they want to do as far as making power. You know, I think also, too, to that point, if there's enough market demand, they may take a look into it. But, God, it's just so tough. The other thing that I'm thinking about with that 426 is, you know, they're marketing that Elephant as an aluminum block 426. How sweet would it be to have 2 or 3 years worth of that 426 with an aluminum block? That'd be pretty sweet. Let's see. Still again, thumbs up. Lots of thumbs up for you. I had no idea they called anything down on Dukes of Hazzard there, Jay Poma. I'd heard of that. Endless Combo says, how long before we get interior on par with the new Rams interior? Ain't that the truth? You know, those trucks have really nice interiors and they're durable to boot. Something you guys with Challengers may have already noticed, and some of y'all Chargers, just getting in and out of the car. If you've got, you know, a belt on, or, you know, for the guys that might have a pocket knife on the side of their pocket, you got to be careful getting in and out of those cars. You can tear those seats up pretty good. Never had that problem with my truck, though. So again, says he's already got one tuned. I like it. Then you've got the capability to run long tubes on that car, provided that you've got a tuner that can make the provision changes for the long tubes. Make that switch, you'll be a lot happier. That thing will run better just for the fact it doesn't have to drag around as much weight. Let's see. Jay Palmer. There's a video of a guy using flexible aluminum dryer duct from his headlight to his airbox. That, why? Yeah, I'm shaking my head too. Absolutely don't need to do that. That's pretty funny. Let's see. Still again is letting us know his car is custom tuned. If I do a suitcase muffler delete, would I need a new tune? No, you won't. Not at all. Won't affect it in one bit. Cody Redman. My hometown dealership has a new black 2016 Hellcat A8 with 10 miles on it for 2.5 years now. It was $70,000. Now it's at $61K. How much lower do you think it'll go? No kidding. 2016 still sitting on the well, you know what? That's not altogether unheard of. How much lower do I think it'll go? Man, it'll be tough to say, because that car is still going to carry warranty out for a long time. So they're going to have to be able to at least, you know, justify that portion of the cost. But right now it's at $61K. Shoot, man, I'd say if they would they let it go for 57? Might be something to look into. 57, 58, that car would be a steal. Go74 says, yeah, it's on the episode of General Lee's birthday. You should look it up. He's talking about one of those cars being called a Hellcat. That's pretty cool. Tuning by Diablo Tuna. Sweet. Oh, Jay Palmer, thank you very much. Project Revlon, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Saying that rant was great, especially about the handling and using on on-ramps as an example. I've done the same. Got to give the flex thumbs bang on that one. Yeah, so, man, I really do appreciate that. Thank you very much. Miss Revlon does too. So, yeah, the handling rant, that's one of those things. So, and also that ties into kind of the theme of the show today was, you know, why I'm such a fan of Mopar, why I fly that flag so high. You know, the cool thing about Mopar is they don't build cars to make journalists happy. And one of the things that journalists will just sit around and gush over is this thing called handling. But the problem with handling is that there's no actual way to gauge it. I mean, sure, you've got your circle test, you've got your pylon test and all this other stuff, but the reality is that in real world situations, and again, we're talking about cars that are being built in 2018, 2019, all of them handle very well. Refinement has gotten all of these cars to be very comparable in the handling realm. In other words, the technology and the science behind it, along with tire technology, suspension geometry and all of that, that is the tide that has risen all ships. So what justifies or what qualifies as acceptable handling today would have been superior handling from just 10 to 12 years ago. So we've got to keep that in mind when we're talking about handling. And the problem that I have when people start saying that a Mustang handles better than a Challenger, or that, insert whatever car handles better than a Charger, they're missing the boat entirely. It's an irrelevant metric if we're talking about modern cars that perform as these modern cars do in terms of acceleration, stopping, power to weight ratios, things like that. They already handle the power fine. They handle just fine on their own. So unless you are actively taking your car to a closed circuit, or unless you are, canyon carver, back roads carver type of guy, that's great. But if you start to exceed the capabilities of what most modern cars will do, take away the Challenger, the Charger, take away the Mustang, just talk about vehicles in general, a general transportation appliance, that thing will handle far and away better than some sports cars would handle from just, 10 years ago. And in car life, I mean, that's just a generation ago. It's not that impressive what those cars did by today's standards. So at any rate, that's where that's coming from. But again, thank you so very much, Jay. I really do appreciate that a lot, more than you know. Stoll again says, Jay, I saw that and agree 100%. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's, there's so much more to it, but for me, that's what really cinches it for me. Symphonic. So if the C7 will continue to be produced alongside of the C8, like you think will happen, which I do, will the C7 get a power bump and a refresh? Because 460 for the Vet isn't good enough anymore. Cheers on that. I will agree with that 100%. I'll take it a step further. One of the things that irks me about the Vet having 460 horsepower is that the Camaro has 460 horsepower. You can't, at least historically in GM terms, you can't release a Camaro with the same horsepower as the Corvette, and you can't lower the horsepower in the Camaro. You need to raise the horsepower in the Corvette. The Corvette needs to be 500 horsepower. C7 needs to be a 500 horsepower car. It needs to be special again. The problem that I see with the Corvette is that what used to mean something back in the day was the Corvette power plant. Having that Corvette engine in your pickup truck meant something, or having that Corvette engine in a motor swap Vega or a Monza, that meant something. And now it's just a general LT4. Pick your alphabet soup when it comes to the LS motors. But I agree with you 100%, and you shouldn't have to go after the aftermarket to get to that 500 horsepower mark. That should be something that is fundamental to the brand of Corvette, is to have the most powerful engines in their cars across the spectrum, regardless of trim. And if it's a question of, well, the Camaro needs to be able to compete, the Camaro needs to be able to go up against the Mustang or what have you, then they need to do that with, a 460, 480 horsepower engine of their own that has the capabilities to make more bottom end torque, to act like a true muscle car, as opposed to a sports car, and that sports car being America's sports car with the Corvette. Let's see, Zephyr R&D, what is your pick for overall driver's car in my opinion? Not necessarily power, but feel, engagement, fun, feedback, etc. Fantastic question. Overall, the most favorite car that I've ever driven, let me think about this for a minute, as far as being balanced and fun, would be probably a 996 turbo. It's the first one that comes to mind, mainly because it was a point and click apparatus. I mean, that car was just a riot to drive. I had a cousin that had one, and I did get a chance to drive it a few times and really enjoyed that car. But might be a little bit too powerful for overall, best driver's car. I like cars. If I'm looking at a best driver's car, I want something that's balanced, that's fun, that's fast, but manageable. So in saying that, when you start to add up all the criteria, you also have to look at other things that will start to come to mind. Affordability, the ability, if it breaks, to fix it. Basically, when you're looking at best driver's car, you're really looking at which car would you want to be married to. And for that, you almost, there's going to be one car that comes to mind, and that would be, I hate to say this, it's a C6 Corvette. Mainly because you can literally do everything under the sun with a C6 Corvette and be successful with it, at least on some level. You can outfit it to drive on a closed circuit. You can outfit it to autocross. You can outfit it to drag race. You can outfit it to race in half mile and mile events. And what I mean by outfit is just change your tires, and that's it. It doesn't mean that you're going to win every race, but the thing about it is that you will be competitive nonetheless. And with a proper heads cam setup, good exhaust system, and some suspension tweaking, and leave it alone after that, don't go overboard, that particular car will take you into whatever venue you want to enter into, and it will be competitive, and you'll have a lot of fun with it, and it won't overpower you. The idea is the package itself. Now, leave it stock. You can still do the same thing with that platform when it is bone stock. So if we're talking about best overall, what does fit into that box, that would probably be my pick. So, because everything else is just going to be a little bit underpowered or a little bit underwhelming. You're just not going to get the same feel. M3 comes to mind here as far as best overall driver's car. And really, when I say M3, just pick one. It does not matter. They're all pretty good at getting around a closed circuit. Like a PCH run up in NorCal, lots of fun there too, but you don't have the ability to be competitive in all, in all venues. So that to me is probably the kicker for best driver's car. It's whatever the driver wants to do. That's what that car will be competitive at. So hopefully I didn't overstate that answer, but I probably do. Jay Pum is saying that rant was flawless. Man, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was in a bit of a mood, you could say. Stole It Again says, if you haven't driven a Pursuit model Charger, don't discount the handling characteristics that are available. Hey, I tell you what, you see those cars going around the training course at the Houston Police Academy. You won't say that they handle poorly at all. Those things handle great. So, and they beat the living crap out of those cars. And they just keep coming back for more. Go74 says, my credit is crap right now. When would you say I should trade my SXT in for a 5.7 TA? I can't have anything with a bigger engine due to the fact I drive about 500 miles a month for drill. So here's what I want to caution you on that. Don't necessarily equate a smaller engine for better fuel economy. It's not uncommon to get equal to or nearly equal to 6-cylinder fuel economy with a V8. And the reason why is if you're driving a lot in terms of long distances, you're on the freeway just motoring down the road, it takes the same amount of horsepower to make that platform, that body shape, go down the freeway at 75 or 80 miles an hour, typical highway speeds. So at that point, it doesn't matter what engine's under the hood, you're going to be throttled back on a V8, you're going to be into the throttle a little bit more on a V6. Either way, it takes a certain amount of torque to push that air out of the way to make that box that you're driving go down the road. So I've done some fuel economy tests, I guess you could say, just playing around with stuff, if you will, and give you a perfect example. You can substitute engine size and gearing also for this, and if you do a little lateral thinking, it'll make some sense, because you're spinning the engine faster to go the same certain speed. And within reason, I mean, my 323 geared work truck gets the same fuel economy as my 392 geared work truck. That shouldn't be the same, right? 323 should get better, but in practice it doesn't. So, and you see this with V6 trucks mainly. The V6 will sometimes in town achieve better fuel economy, but if you're driving the thing long distance on the highway, typically it won't. Some of that may have to do with significantly more aggressive gearing for the V6, just so that it gets the thing out of the hole a little bit easier. But again, I wouldn't sweat that too much. I would be more concerned about getting that credit where it needs to be so that your interest rate is as low as possible. That's where you're going to save the majority of your money. Fuel costs, man, don't let that be the thing that affects you, because you'd be surprised. Obviously, if you're not breaking your foot off on that throttle, snapping your ankle up, matting that firewall, I think you'll be okay. Damn, Slick S550. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Says beer money for the next rant. Thanks for the laughs. We will put that to good use for Project Revlon. Libations are part of the project. You got to keep the mechanic on duty nice and happy. So thank you very much for that. We'll have to get some Shiner Blonde will be what that goes to. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Life is Lee comes in with, I live near San Antonio and I want to tune my Hellcat. Where would you recommend taking it? Well, I would hop in your car, jump on I-10 and head east. Run that thing over to Pike's Performance Tunes. Hands down the best when it comes to tuning Hellcats. He's tuned more Hellcats, I think, than anybody else, and has some of the highest success rates of putting those cars into a performance envelope that you would not believe, that is still safe and proper for the environment that we live in. Which brings me to a good point. Thank you for bringing this up. Great question. I'm going to take this in a little bit different direction for you, but just kind of ride with me here. So when you're tuning the Hellcats, one thing, or if you own a Hellcat and you're thinking about getting that vehicle tuned, one thing you absolutely have to remember is where you live. Here in Texas, we have kind of the best of all worlds. We have fairly low elevation. Obviously, here in Houston, we're at, for as close as it doesn't matter, 0 elevation. But, going into Dallas up to 500 feet. Now, that's just in actual land elevation. So we have low elevation and we get very good, very cool dry air during the winter. So those two things combined, what that means is that your car is going to be making a ton of power. You don't want to go to a tuner that doesn't have experience tuning those supercharged platforms in cooler weather. And the reason for that, density altitude drops. That's supercharger weather. That's the wheelhouse. And you start making more boost because you're dealing with a lower density altitude, higher oxygen content in the air. Too aggressive of a tune and low DAs mean Mopar-mageddon. You be popping stuff left and right out of that block. So keep that in mind when you're choosing a tuner. It's one thing that at Pike's Performance, we definitely take to heart, because this is what we work with, what Alex works with in terms of tuning all day, every day. It's all Mopar all the time, it seems like. So a little smattering of a Ford and a Chevy in there every once in a while, but now into Audis. So definitely excited about that. But just keep that in the back of your mind when you're looking at tuning. You don't want to get too aggressive, and if you're running a stock Hellcat, you'll be in good hands for sure. So let's see. Stoll again says he has driven Pursuit models in all kinds of conditions, and like yours truly says, most will never drive their cars to that limit. Totally agree about street handling. Yeah, there's such a big difference. I would just challenge anybody that has any question about handling, or what does handling even mean. Go visit and start participating in your local SCCA autocrosses, take your car out there and learn how to drive that thing. At one point in time, my dad and I were both instructors, and that's a default position. It doesn't mean that you sat in class and, you know, wore the glasses and got all smart with it. It's just we had done it for so long. More experienced drivers would be put with novices and newer drivers to help them get around the course, teach them throttle control, teach them turn in, proper application of throttle, you know, moving through apexes and blah, 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 all that kind of good stuff. I've worked with a lot of people. I had worked with a lot of people in the years that I was involved with it. And you would be surprised the level of improvement that you'll see with guys in every vehicle that they bring in. And we encourage folks to bring in their daily drivers. Don't just bring in your Miata. Don't bring in your sports cars, your Camaros, your Mustangs, or whatever. You know, bring in your minivan, you know, bring in your SUV, learn how that vehicle is going to respond in a controlled environment in true handling situations. You know, you're not making them panic stop and you're not making them do silly other things. You're letting them get the thing out there and play with it. And, you know, as we all know, I mean, that's how you learn the best, is when you're having fun and playing. So, you know, that to me is, it will be an eye-opener. And anybody who's ever just gone that far into autocross will understand what I was talking about handling. Then you get into those of us that have been on large closed circuits, whether it's with motorcycles or with cars. Myself, GSX-R 750, RC51, and my Vipers all saw closed circuit track days at least once in their life. The Vipers were run probably 25 times, and I can't count how many laps I've got on a motorcycle. So, but just so you know, that's the kind of stuff that'll really open your eyes in terms of what handling truly is, and stop listening to what your local journo is going to try to tell you about what handling is and what it isn't. Let's see. The Epic Farter, yeah, it looks like he's got some problems tonight. Let's see. So, yeah, I know. What the fuck? True Day, did you or do you have plans on switching my Hellcat from 262s to 309s? Funny you should mention that. That has been a topic that has been going back and forth. This is starting to look like ping pong at this point as far as whether I'm going to go 309s or not with my car. For my power level, 309s would actually be pretty fun, but there's some things about running 309 gears that you might not think about coming into it. So if you put 309s on a stock car, and what I mean stock tune, stock pulley ratio, obviously, but everything else being stock, you will go into cat overtemp more quickly with the 309s because you're spinning the engine faster as you're going down the drag strip, that you will reach that specific number of revs that it took you to get to the beginning of cat overtemp a little bit quicker. So you may see some improvement in the 8th mile, but you won't necessarily see an improvement in the quarter mile because the car is going into catalytic converter overtemp at that point. The problem with the 309 gear in another way, here's another way of looking at it. And this is something I noticed when I was driving the Demon around. And keep in mind, I spent about 3 weeks driving that thing back and forth. It's been a lot of time behind the wheel of that car. Two things. One, it wasn't a huge difference between the 309 and the 262 gear in the Hellcats, but it was a bit more lively on the street. Traction was obviously a bit of an issue, but it is with both gears. So it's kind of difficult to, I don't know. I can't find myself really criticizing the traction aspect because they both suffer from it. But I am on the fence, but it is a performance mod and it doesn't really affect fuel economy all that much. And it's got me a little bit intrigued, especially when you can order a red eye with a 309 gear from the factory. So that will be a mod that if I do it, it'll be a little bit later on into 2019 would be my estimated time of arrival for a mod like that. But the mods that I'll be doing to my car are going to center around stock pulleys being on that car. I want to see as far, I want to try to take the stock pulley combination as far as I can and retain all the drivability, all the streetability, and all of the durability that I can with that car. So by that line of thinking, that 309 gear actually looks pretty good. So we'll see. And of course, you know, I've heard mixed results from guys with that 309 gear. Some of them love it. Others haven't seen much of a difference. But you know what? If it's good enough for the Demon and it makes more horsepower and torque than my car does, then yeah, who knows? It might be good enough for mine. Let's see. Phoenix 98. I love the garter snake beats nothing. Yeah. Yeah, there's your Venom. Venom eats demons, or Venom kills demons, or Venom gets demons high. I don't know. I'm so tired of it. You know, and this isn't necessarily a rant video, but it's comments like that that just crack me up when they're viewed in light of the fact that all these Mustangs are having all these problems, and all these Mustangs, the Coyote guys, and to some extent the LS guys, but if you notice, they're kind of quiet, not as vocal. But you would always hear the Hemi tick, lifter, manifold bolt, man. You'd hear all this other stuff, and you know, all you got to do is put a blower on a Coyote, and it outruns the space shuttle or whatever. And you would keep hearing that. It's funny how all that criticism just got shut the heck up when you look at it in light of the fact that what is this thing? I mean, why does my Coyote sound like a diesel? And what do you mean my transmission forks broke? What's a fork? You know, you get guys that really aren't in the know. They're just going out there rowing gears and banging on these things and just driving them like they stole them, or like it's a rental car and they're blowing up transmissions. And I've even heard problems with the 10-speed automatics as well. You know, half shaft snapping on the drag strip on a sticky tire, all these things, you know, all that criticism pretty much got shut up pretty quick, didn't it? Well, I guess it is kind of hard to criticize when you're behind the wheel of an old Fiesta while your Mustang is in the shop, be getting wrenched on and having, I don't know, 2 months worth of sitting around and not doing anything, only to have the same brittle made out of glass part put back into your car, just waiting for you to snap it on up again. So, yeah. Sorry, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. No, thanks again, Phoenix. Slick S550 said, I had several Monzas with V8s, the good old days. No kidding, right? So I remember fondly at the drag strip when I was just a little B Mason, when they had the Vegas, the Monzas out there, the smaller, I don't even know what body designation that they were, but those guys were running real pissed off stroke 350s, 383s with nitrous, and you would see those things just tearing the track up. But some of my favorites were always the AMC cars, the Gremlins. Those always cracked me up. Scott 426, what's up, B Mason? What's up, Scott? Let's see. Now we got some flagellant motherfucker on here tonight. Let's see. Stole it again. Jay, laughing at him. Stole it again. Jay, did he get you? No, haha. Stole it again. Cool. What we got going on? Got some chats going on. I like it. Jay Palmer just cruising. What we got going on here? Oh, Scott 426, 2000 M5. Yeah, that's another good car. Any of the larger sedans are always a good time. You know, the thing is with me is I've always been a fan of the bigger cars, though. It's just I've had more fun in the big cars because they always seem to. What's the best way I can put it? They always seem to offer more of a challenge. It was always more of a. It was just more fun because I never felt like I was trying to accomplish anything other than just keep up with one of the, one of the smaller cars. But, Michael Smith, what about a 335i single turbo? Yeah, that would be a lot of fun, actually. Love the 335. Surprisingly fast, too, which is kind of a BMW trait. I swear BMW horses are just bigger than other European horses, apparently, because every BMW that I have ever driven, no matter what rating of horsepower that they were, they always acted like they had about 20% more power than they really did. I don't know how they do that in engine mapping, torque converter, or if for the automatics that I've driven, transmission gearing, whatever the case is, those cars always run like they're stronger than what they're rated at. See, Stolen again saying, driver habits. I have a lot greater effect when the engine size than the engine size when it comes to fuel economy. No, that's absolutely a fact right there. Let's see. Zephyr R&D says, perfect answer. I appreciate that. I appreciate it as always. So C6, Z06, or Grand Sport. If it's my money getting spent, I'm going Grand Sport every single time with that. You still get the dry sump. Very cool. But you get the flexibility of the LS3. And what I mean by flexibility here is, unless you just got the money laying around for a Z06, and if you're putting those cars up, it looks like you're going to want a manual transmission. But if you decide you change your mind at the last minute, when you start looking for the cars, you can get an automatic in the Grand Sport. But you get the look, you get the handling, you get the dry sump, and again, you get the flexibility with that LS3 you can build it however you want. It's not going to be very expensive. You can put together a package that when you get behind the wheel, you know that you're going to have a good time and you know you're going to have fun with that car. The Z06, you know, if you can swing it, it is obviously I'm not going to say a better choice. It is slightly more powerful, but you won't really notice the difference. Let me rephrase that. You'll notice the difference if you go from a C6, normal C6 to a Z06, but I don't think you'll notice as big of a difference as you think. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Oh, and by the way, if you scatter that 6.2, so much less expensive to repair than that LS7 is going to be. Or LS3, depending on which C6 you get. See, Scat 4026 saying I got 28 miles per gallon in his Scat Pack on a 6.5 hour drive. It happened once with one stop, driving around 55 to 60 following traffic. Yep, I've seen it a lot, as a matter of fact. Especially in if you're following traffic, everybody's kind of drafting each other a little bit. Excuse me. You can definitely get some good fuel economy out of that vehicle. And again, you know, you don't have to worry about it being it's a V8. You can still go out there and have fun with it. See, Jay Palma comes in with a new Charger Pursuits have a sweet security feature. Uses the rear camera to detect someone sneaking up and rolls up the windows, turns the lights and sirens on, and locks the door. That's pretty cool. Didn't know about that. I'd love to see that in action. That's pretty cool stuff, man. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see. Getting through some of these. Got some of my friends doing a little chatting. I like that a lot. Love it when I see folks interacting on the channel too. That always makes me smile. I like seeing that. Go74 says, thank you so much for the time. Get that credit down and get my dream car. Absolutely. No sin in saving, brother. Listen, I've had a lot of ramen noodles and tuna fish, and yeah, I've definitely no sin in saving. It's always better to save than it is to bust that credit limit up. Bad Hemi 300S was good, Mr. Mason. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate you. Real Racing Production says, did an engine and trans tune for my 392 Hemi and still ended up losing to the new GT on a roll. Is there any chance with this? Nope, not really. Not on a roll. It depends on how far out you're going to take it. But the Mustang, here's the problem you're going to have with the Mustang on a roll, especially if it's a 10-speed automatic. When that thing hits fifth gear, mathematically, their fifth gear, I want to say, is 15% more aggressive than our fifth gear. Keeping in mind that their first, second, third, and fourth are all very close to your 8-speed. So, And it also depends on how that car was geared, too. You got to keep that in mind. But to be honest with you, yeah, because of the way that that transmission's geared, when that car hits fifth, it is going to start to pull on you. And let's be honest, that Coyote can breathe its ass off in the upper RPM range. So I don't really see it being a problem, though, losing to the Mustang. You got to keep in mind that that is its wheelhouse. That's where it does its work. Go from a dig, especially on a prep drag strip, that story is going to be a completely different one. He is going to be reading your license plate all the way down the track. And if he does catch you, he will have to reel you in at the very end of the track. And by the way, my 392 never lost one race that I can remember. Raced a lot of S550 Mustangs, naturally aspirated, tuned, everything. And that car never lost a race to a Mustang on the drag strip. But I knew what I could get away with too. So let's see what else we got. Jay Puma reminding us all to hit that thumbs up down there. Yeah, hit that thumbs up. I heard it does something good, so hit it. Give us some love. Give us some likes. So again, it says, yeah, Jay, pretty cool. Saw that. Keeps his old sleeper. King, what's up? Saying, yo, B Mason, what's up? What's up, man? Let's see. Ethan Hack says he got rid of his 2014 392 for a 1450, and honestly, he is super happy with the change. Hey, I like the 1450s. They're great cars. Lighter weight, better aftermarket, fun car. Absolutely. Way better aftermarket. That's an understatement. You're being polite, by the way, my brother, by saying it like that. He says he's always angry that 392 is never treated well by Dodge, and my thoughts on that. Yeah, I'll agree with that. You know, it still kind of irks me that Dodge doesn't support the 392 the way Ford supports the Coyote and GM supports the LS X platform. I don't get it. I really don't get it, because that really is the car that the grassroots racers have been championing for so long. And, you know, to be honest with you, you know, the 392 is as good as it is from the factory. There are still some improvements that they could engineer into that car. I mean, a different intake manifold. The exhaust manifolds are actually really good. So, and the exhaust system is really good. There's just a few things that are lacking on that car to really bring it up to, you know, a moddable and a make it a mod viable platform. Unfortunately, none of the aftermarket is taking to it as well either, because they're having a hell of a hard time improving on the parts that are on that car. And let me stop right there and just say this about the 392. You can't look at the 392 in a vacuum. And what I mean by it, the way that you can, you know, the 5-liter or any of the LS platforms, the 392 really is, it's a victim of its own success in a lot of ways, because look at it like this. You've got a 392 in a Challenger that in good air on a drag wheel and tire setup is capable of running 11s from the factory. Big deal, by the way. But the car is heavy, and so you need an intake manifold and a camshaft profile that will get that thing rolling and get that thing to the 100-foot mark as fast as it possibly can. That's where that Challenger and the Charger does all of its best work. Well, if you start to toy around with camshaft profiles and intake manifolds, well, there's really only one intake manifold you can get into, but you start messing with the combination and you start messing with what works very well. I've got a couple of camshaft grinds that work very well with Hemis, and they're all centered around using that stock intake manifold and working with the stock torque converter with the heavy weight that you're working against with that particular platform. So, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, I hate to say it, but, you know, just a little bit more salt in that soup is going to make it taste bad. So take that advice and do what you will with it. But yeah, it's one of those things. Jay saying that the 18 Charger Pursuit has a crazy 10 or 12 inch display as well. That'd be pretty cool. I like that. But I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff anyway. for some things, not for others. Let's see. Stole it again saying, Mason, what tuner do you run? HP Tuner software. In fact, the sticker's on the back of my ancient ass laptop, which I'm hoping to replace here pretty soon because that thing, it's having a hard time. That poor girl's on her last legs. Symphonics says that he was told that the Corvette LS3s come stock with a torque control management system limiting the power and torque in first and second gear to 350 horsepower and torque. Is that true? You know, I wouldn't call it what it is necessarily limiting it to. You will have some torque management where you're pulling timing at the shift. I'm not so sure about true full-on torque management per gear, though. My deal is, you know, all of that's going to be taken out once the tune is put on your car. A lot of the torque management is going to be removed. If you've got a manual transmission, all of it will be removed. But most of the manufacturers will do that mainly to save their transmissions from getting exploded. So keep that, you know, in the back of your mind when you're looking to make improvements. The detent, let's see, my vet to C5, but detent mod, MGW shifter, that alone kept the clutch fluid real clean. But yeah, God, sometimes I miss driving that car. Ergonomics in the C5s were terrible, though. Jay Plum is saying that he's got one. How about them UPR catch cans? They look solid. Wait, hey, they're great. In fact, UPRs get pretty much any catch can is going to be good. You can't really find a bad one. They all have a steel wool substrate as the nucleation site for the vapor. So, you know, they're all going to be pretty decent. But no catch can is, or every catch can is only as good as the person that is changing that oil or draining that catch can, I should say. So as long as you're running something, you're doing something for the engine. Now, to what extent? Man, it's tough to say, you know, but you're doing something. And in this game, something is better than nothing. So we'll take that every time. See, True Day is saying, yeah, you would definitely say Dallas and Houston have more better shops. After living in San Antonio for 3 years and visiting multiple shops with his 15 B5 SRT Challenger. Yeah, we've got some pretty good ones here in town. I would say that, you know, again, you know, the whole caveat emptor thing, buyer beware, make sure that you do your homework. Wear Google out. Be as informed as you can possibly be before you go into a shop. And this is a great opportunity for me to stop dead in my tracks and say this. Anytime you're taking your vehicle to a shop, you are assuming a certain amount of risk. And even though a tune, or let me rephrase that, even though a known set of parameters will give you some gain in performance and has been proven to be safe, that does not take into account any manufacturing flaws that may exist in your car that could lead to problems later on or immediately on, depending on what those problems are. And the problems run the gambit, guys. And keep this in mind. When people say that things never happen or that they so very rarely happen, what that means to somebody like this that's kind of still in the business, so to speak, what that tells me is you just haven't been around this business long enough to make that statement. Because when you're in the business, the things that happen very rarely happen once a week. The things that happen all the time happen about once a day. All right. The things that never happen once a month. Okay. These are commonplace things, let's put that in quotation marks, that will take place. And so, you know, rods failing, pistons breaking, bearings failing. And these are in brand new cars, by the way. All kinds of things go south with these cars. And by the way, this is not Mopar specific. This is Chevrolet, Ford, Mopar, all of them. So take that with a grain of salt, guys. I just wanted to put that out there. Anything can go wrong, even with a stock car. And I have actually seen it. So keep that in the back of your mind. Zephyr RD said, okay, you mentioned Audis. What I think about the S3, freaking awesome. Golf R, love it. Yeah, it's still, Golf R still the same family. For those of you guys that don't know, I freaking love hatchbacks. I've just got a thing for them. Anything with a hatchback will get my attention. As a matter of fact, I already kind of reorganized stuff on this workbench over here, but yeah, I had an old GLH brochure that was up here on my workbench. The old Rabbits from way back when they had mechanical fuel injection. The Corrado, any of those cars, freaking love them. And obviously, you know, anything else is just icing on the cake for me. But yeah, I love those cars to death. And with a tune, by the way, those things can be pretty damn quick. S3 is badass, but I do have a soft spot for the front wheel drive stuff. And the Golf R with a tune, I mean, it very fast car. Smoke a Civic, that's for sure. Type R, whatever. Let's see. Still again, performance/pursuit driving is a very perishable skill. Dude, it is witchcraft. And it's something that, yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it. You got to play. It's like a foreign language. If you don't use it, you lose it. It's like playing an instrument. If you don't use it, you lose it. You've got to get your cars out there, guys, and you've got to play. If you guys are into firearms, you know, you've got to go to the range once a month or at least once a quarter, burn through some old ammo. You know, anything that requires skill set, muscle memory, anything that requires hand-eye coordination, you got to stay on top of it. With me, I'm on heavy bag at least once a week. Try to go to the range at least once every quarter just to stay sharp, make sure the equipment's working right. And of course, I'm on a drag strip all the time. So yeah, get those cars out, have fun with them. That's the whole point of these things, is to have a ball with them, and you can. So do it. Don't be scared of it. Jay Palma, wouldn't it be more efficient to have a catch can for each side of the engine/valve cover, or in line with the PCV just fine? Or is it just fine on the PCV side? It depends on the setup that you're running. I ran an open element on the filter side of the PCV circuit. You have to think of the PCV system as a completed circuit. And so what I did is I ran open element on my 392 and ran a catch can on the PCV side, using that filter as a vent for positive crankcase pressure and as the draw for the PCV circuit, you know, through the valve cover, basically into the crankcase, through the PCV, and then back into the intake manifold, obviously by way of the catch can. On a supercharged car, would like to see every manner that you can to mitigate oil going through that intake and into that system. So, you know, I want to see, you know, a catch can, a vented filter, you know, catch can on the PCV side. Everywhere you can, I would like to see that. Now, all that said, Revlon is still bone stock. No PCV, no catch can system on the PCV circuit on that car yet, but it is coming. That's going to be a project that I will be working on probably during monsoon season, so February coming into March. Stolen again, 309 gears. Spinning ain't winning. No, it isn't. And I tell you what, it'll light the tires up with 262. So it makes it fun to drive. But yeah, 309s on the street would be kind of tough in terms of traction. Bad Hemi 300S, is a 309 gear good on a tune and bolt-ons 5.7? Absolutely it is. Especially if it's got an 8-speed automatic, or it's a step up. I think some of the NAG 1 cars had, what was it, 262s? God, I can't remember off the top of my mind now, but yeah, absolutely. 309 is a good all-around gear for these cars. Hector says, what's up, B. Mason, here in Graveyard Shift. Listen to your gospel. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming in. I do appreciate it. Jay Palma, how old is the Coyote? The Coyote was released in 2011 and has been going strong ever since, and has been updated regularly ever since too, by the way. True Day saying, yeah, the main thing I've read on forums about switching from the 262 to the 309 is more lively on the street. I really like it on his, he said he really likes it on SRT. Haven't driven a Hellcat though. So I had, in one of the older videos that I put together, I was like one of these My Thoughts videos that I used to put together quite a bit. And it was my driving experience with the Hellcat versus my SRT. The one thing that you notice about the Hellcat over the SRT is if you're just driving the thing around, you will not feel a difference. It's just not that pronounced, especially when I was comparing it to a tuned 392. Now, when you tip into the throttle past about half throttle, that's when you really know where your money's been spent with the Hellcat, because up to that point, it's pretty much on par. Close that bypass off and start making a little bit of boost, and then give a little bit of load to that supercharger, and it starts really pushing you back. The best way I can explain the Hellcat is if you put the Hellcat in 500 horsepower mode, that is what you would expect a 426 stroker that has gone through all the EPA and endurance testing and everything else. That's about what you would expect it to drive like and to feel like, is you put a Hellcat in 500 horse mode, because it will annihilate the tires. You still have all the torque down low. It's just not making the horsepower up top. So, but I don't know, just to try to give you the driving impression, the driving experience, very little difference until you tip into it at about half throttle, and then a very noticeable difference after that. Jay Plum is letting us know that the fella he got his rim from put the 309 in his Hellcat. I mean, it's a fun mod to do, and that's another reason why I may do it, is it just does make the car a bit more lively. And you know, if it doesn't pick up anything at the track, but it makes it just more silly to drive, then I may go ahead and do that. Let's see. Trey's saying, he's not gonna lie, kind of irked that you have to get the wide body to get 305s on the Scatter Hellcat. Can't really put anything higher than 275s on a 9.5-inch rim. And he really likes the hyper black rims. Yeah, I like them too. I still have two here with those Aturos. I just use them for an extra spare set of wheels and tires, I guess, if I ever needed them. But why that car does not have a staggered setup on it really is beyond me. In this day and age, not having a staggered setup on a muscle car just does not make any sense. But you know, bean counters, what can you say? But you know, go with the set of 10.5, so you can put your 305s on the back of it, and you will be in good shape. You'll have the same setup that most of us are running, and you know, for the street, run your drag radials, or you know, whichever tires you know will work for you on the back of it. But you can run that 305, and it looks a lot better too. Just be careful though; you may run into problems with your inner fender liner. If you end up with some rubbing, all you got to do is basically press that thing back up against the body, pull your push pin out, get it to where it's not rubbing, or just give it a little bit more clearance, mark it, drill your hole into just the plastic liner, put your push pin in and set it and forget it. You'll be in good shape. Chaos of the Unicorn saying, join just in time for the talking coyotes blowing up. Yeah, we were chatting about that last night or the other night for sure. Stole it again, saying big cars and small women. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Do like a little bit of booty on my ladies, though. Let's see. It means they know how to cook. True Day, asking me if I would recommend running a staggered setup if you wanted to run 10.5 rims with 305 tires for the rear and 275s up front. That's what I do with my cars. Absolutely. I would not want to run 305s on all four corners. It's not necessary, and I think you probably run into rubbing issues too. Excuse me. Jay Palmer letting True Day know about PK Auto. Like it. Ethan Hack asked, would I overall say that the Coyote is a much better platform to build on than the 392 ? Yes, I would. Will the Cuda be replacing the Challenger? Because that's been the talk of the community for years. God, your guess is better than mine, brother. And that's the thing. I've heard so many different directions that rumor was going to go. It's difficult for me to really say what I think, because I don't really have an opinion on it anymore, because it could go in any direction, and all the directions that I know of would make sense. And those directions would be, excuse me, that the Cuda would replace the Challenger. There's that one. You've got the Cuda would be its own car as a halo car. There's that one. That the Cuda will be a car that will be running concurrently with the Challenger as a smaller sedan style car, smaller coupe, so to speak, front engine, rear drive. I've heard that rumor as well. And that one, I'm not so much sure about that, but I don't know. People will speculate, and really at this point, the speculation is just that. There is no fact. It's only an educated guess. Rumor is typically something that there's usually some minor amount of truth to it, although the minor and insignificant portion of the truth is what's blown out of proportion. I think that's what we're getting hit with here. And if anybody says that they know for a fact on anything with this, they are bullshitting you. Nobody knows for a fact unless they're the ones that are actually putting this stuff together at FCA. Let's see. I need to look at this PK place, by the way, Jay. Thank you for letting us know about that. True Day, you could probably run 315s on the new wide bodies, right? Actually, they come with you can easily get 315s on the wide body. And they do run the 11-inch wheels. Didn't like the wide body at first, but it's really grown on him. Yep, I'm right there with you on that. You see one in person, and it will change your opinion real quick. Let's see. Hang on just a second. Let me get this back over here. Zephyr R&D says that his 15 Scat on MDS would do 32 miles per gallon at 65 miles an hour and 91 all day long. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. And it would be beating the living hell out of the MDS lifters, which are typically the ones that fail. But the 15s, I think, had the better lifters in them. So you would be safe with that, running that car all day, every day. Let's see. Jay Puma at Zephyr R&D. What is it? Was it a V6 Scat? It'd be pretty good to find a V6 with MDS. Ghost74 asking, what do you guys think of the wide body Scat? Let them know what you think, guys. I actually like it. I started off hating it, and I hated it for a little bit different reason than you might think, by the way. The reason why I didn't like the wide body Scat was that I was pissed off that they didn't use the wide body for the NA cars when they released the TA. That to me was a bit of a letdown. I would have really loved to see, and mainly because the TA is the TA. I mean, there is a racing heritage there. It's a road racing heritage, and it would have been so cool to have the fenders, the fender flares, the bigger wheels and tires, and all of that in a car that was kind of geared for road racing, the way that the TA Challengers were back in the day. So, and the AAR CUDA as well, by the way. So, and the funny thing is that they have an AAR CUDA hood from the factory on a Challenger. So, or AAR style hood, I should say. I just never, to me, I just kept thinking, God, I wish I was in marketing for FCA and Dodge, because there are so many cool things that I would have wanted to do that would harken back to heritage, that you would see them do something cool, but they would completely miss the mark as far as how to bring it to light, how to market that product. And you got to remember too, guys, that part of marketing is educating your customer on why you did what you did and the history behind what it is that you're doing. And God, they just seem to, and the reason why I'm even commenting on that is that there's like a fiduciary responsibility because Mopar is advertising the car with all this heritage behind it, but marketing has been missing the point of that. So there's no synergy. You got to promote synergy. Anyway, like a mouse. Let's see. Sold again, giving some thumbs up. Like the thumbs up. Let's see, Trude said, I would like to definitely try a 10-speed auto. The 8-speed auto was a match made in heaven for the 392. Says he wonders how reliable a new 10-speeds are, though. Hard to compete with ZF engineering quality. Yeah, ask any Hellcat owner about that. I mean, there's guys making well over 1,000 horsepower with their Hellcat. So, yeah, absolutely. You know, HP 90, HP 70 is stout, too. Especially when you start to consider the weight of the vehicle in that equation. They're both incredibly stout. You know, the 10-speed auto in the Mustang, been hearing some grumblings that they're running into problems with them, although you don't hear about problems with that transmission in the ZL1. So that was supposed to be a concurrently, like a work that was, you know, done in conjunction with Ford and Chevrolet, and it just doesn't seem to, I don't know, it's like the two stories don't agree. You know, the Mustang's having problems with a 10-speed, but the ZL1's not. I thought it was the same transmission. How's that the case? The truck's not having problems with the 10-speed, but the Mustang is. Anybody buying that? I don't understand where that's coming from. So, I don't know. Tough to say. Ghost74 says, I didn't like it at all. First, especially after I saw a skimmer, sleeker, wide body kit. Hold on just a second, guys. Bear with me. Hello, honey. Are you chiming in on the live show? Come by and tell everybody hi. I like your work clothes. Sorry, guys, that was Mrs. Mason. She's being a little bit shy. Anyway, getting back to it. Go74 saying, I didn't like it at all. First, especially after I saw a few slimmer, sleeker, wide body kits that someone on some Challenger forums had made. It had really grown on me, though. Expensive option. Yeah, it's $6,000. Somebody's making, and if you guys know which one it is, there's a small fender flare kit that they're selling. I got to find out which one this one is. And it looks really good. I mean, it looks factory. So the car that I'm thinking of, it was a black one. And I can't remember who was making those fender flares, but they look so good. I mean, definitely something I would consider if I put a little bit wider wheel on my car. Let's see. True Day's letting us know he definitely would go with a wide body. I agree with you, man. Wide bodies are nice. And J-Pub is saying, I'm easy, though. I like every Challenger with a V8. So do I. I've never met a Challenger I didn't like. Let's see. Real Racing Productions. I'll second that. Dodge doesn't treat the 392s well at all. No doubt. 4,200 to 4,400 pounds is a joke. Scott Katz trapping 112 miles an hour while the Coyote traps 117 to 119 and the SS is 116 to 17. Can't hit the strip every day. Yeah, I know. That's the thing. I mean, it's frustrating to say the least, you know, when your competition is in essence in that respect running away from you. The weight has a lot to do with that. But the funny thing about it is when you line those cars up on a drag strip, a funny thing does happen. The Mopar will be out on the Mustang or the Camaro for a while for the most part. And really only towards the end of that pull do you actually see those cars run around them. And obviously that's something that from a roll race is, you know, it's kind of self-evident with these Mopars. I will say this. I think that realistically, Mopar is going to have to do something to really bring those cars into the modern era, which seems to be evolving about every 5 years. But I think Mopar is really going to need to bring themselves into that fold, bring something with a bit more power. They've already got the look. They've already got the interior quality, so to speak. The comfort is there. Need to get a little bit more power into that car, though, just to, because they got to keep up with them. I mean, Mustang hasn't slowed down. Camaro's not slowing down. Mopar can't rest on their laurels. They got to step the game up. Let's see. Yeah, Real Racing Productions kind of just still speaking on that same point. Very true, very true. Mopar will do it, though. Watch, and you'll see. For the NA guys, that to me, just kills me, man. Okay, so for the grassroots racers that are running those 392s, they have got to get some support. It can't be all Hellcat all the time. It can't be all Red Eye all the time, and it can't be all Demon all the time. The grassroots racers, the guys with the 392s that are flying the flag as high as they are, those are the guys that need the support the most. The Hellcats, they can hold their own regardless, but the 392 guys definitely need some support. Go74 is saying he thinks it looks mean and very aggressive. I'm just not a fan. They use the Hellcat hood on the 392s. No kidding. That's actually something that the SRT 392 should have come from the factory with, by the way, but this is my opinion. I got everything else except the blower. At least throw my bone with that hood. Jay Poma says, inside his door, GVWR reads 5,300 pounds, but that's with people, right? Yes, sir, it is. That is with people and all other cargo, including fuel and fluids. Real Racing Productions at True Day agrees, but we lose 10 out of 10 times when roll racing the competition. 392s need a major update. Our competition traps 7 miles per hour or more. That is true, but again, you're comparing roll racing to real world driving everyday type of situations. But I will agree with you that something has to be done to bring that 392 up to speed, so to speak, no pun intended, with our competition. Stoplight to stoplight, they'll hold their own just fine. But man, I'll tell you what, it is tough to beat a Coyote when it is at full steam on a roll. No doubt about it. Let's see, stole it again. Let's see, B Mason, when a 5.7 wears out, assuming he's going to keep it, would I recommend rebuild or replace? Assuming that the failure was a lifter, which is the most likely scenario, which you're right about that. If it's my car, you got to look at it from, let me just make sure I'm reading this. When that 5.7 wears out, if you're keeping the car, I say go for a rebuild. Maybe you go with a little bit better internals, possibly go with the stroker setup at that point. Or when it wears out, go trade it in on a 392. And you'll get all the performance in a very robust platform that, is known to run 11s, from the factory. And by the way, my car, stock on a tire, the best trap speed was 114 was the best trap speed with my car bone stock on a tire. Let's see. Go74 says that he noticed his keyless entry does not work at all. Says he changed the battery and checked and made sure it is on in the car. I don't know what to do. Could have an issue with the fob. That would be my first place to look. Second thing is make sure that the battery you replaced in your fob is actually working. I've actually done that twice, where I had put what I thought were new batteries into a fob, only to have those batteries be worse than the ones that I took out of it. But if everything is working, it was working before and it just your range started to die, those would be the things that I would look at first. Chances are there's nothing wrong with the system itself. There's not a way for that thing to flake out. If worse comes to worse, drag it down to the dealership and just ask them if they can do a key fob relearn, if they can do that for you. But if the car is starting, running, and driving and everything's good, then that part of it's fine. You just got a transmitter issue. So just want to make sure that, did I read that? Let's see. Oh, keyless entry. Sorry. I kind of took that in my own head and said that your key fob itself was dead. Anyway, that give you an idea what to do. Let's see. Oh, Got some stuff going on in here. These guys are working out some things between themselves. I like it. I like it. Boost Motorsports. Woo! Friday night Mopar chat. Woo! Hell yeah. Let's see. Go 74. Yeah, just letting us know that, you know, he's trying to get that keyless entry thing figured out. Let's see. True Day. At me. Hey. What are your thoughts on the bad declining sales for the new Camaros, even though they are considered to have a superior platform compared to the Dodge and Ford? Better does not always mean better. And I want to talk about this for a second with you guys. So why is the Camaro not doing as well? Because the marketplace doesn't like it. It doesn't matter that it's better on paper. It doesn't matter that the car might go faster 0 to 60 or have a better quarter mile time. If the car is just not any fun to drive, or you don't, it's hard to have an emotional connection to that vehicle for whatever reason, whether it's a lack of interior quality, a lack of visibility. It could be just a host of issues. But, you know, by a journalist's standpoint, or from a journalist's point of view, I should say, maybe it's better, but it's only better in metrics that are measurable at a closed circuit track, either through drag strip or a road course. That doesn't mean that the car feels better to drive. It also doesn't mean that the car gives you any confidence that it's going to be durable long term. Mustang is a solid platform, and I'll tell you something else. Look, for everything that everybody says negative, sorry, everything that everybody says negative about the Mopar as being heavy and this and that, you know what they are? They're big and they're comfortable, and they will absolutely light the tires up at will, and they will put a grin on your face every time you drive it. If the Camaro was fun to drive and gave you that warm, fuzzy feeling and just put a grin on your face, they'd be selling a lot more of them. But instead, Mopar is raking in all of those sales. So, you know, it's not always about the numbers. At the end of the day, we're human beings that are driving these things, not robots. And, you know, we like things that make us feel good, and Mopars make us feel real good. So I think that's the reason for that. Slick S550's checking out. Have yourself a good evening. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate you, brother. Let's see. Go 74. Oh, he's talking about his key fob. Just go down there and check it out. It shouldn't be that expensive. Just have him check it out. It shouldn't cost you anything. Big Daddy 392 comes in. Hey, brother, I've got a scat pack with full bolt-ons and a tune. Thinking about a 100 shot of nitrous. Your thoughts? Also, I want to keep it nitrous assisted, naturally aspirated. Yeah, a couple of things. Planning on putting nitrous on that 392. Obviously, you got the tune to consider. Make sure you go with a colder range of plugs. You're also going to want to please put a progressive controller on that thing. The reason why I say that is because the HB70 is a pretty robust transmission, but once you get above about 550 pound-feet of torque to the rear wheels on a Mustang dyno, that's when you're going to start running into problems with it in terms of slipping. Feed that nitrous in progressively, and I think you'll be a lot happier in the long run. Are you going to spend a lot more money? You know what the answer to that is, but the reality is that you're spending money on the front end to not spend a ton of money on the back, or at least to mitigate that timeline as much as possible. Cry now or cry later. Cry a little bit now or cry a lot later in the case of your transmission. Ask me how I know. And that wasn't even nitrous assisted. Let's see. Oh, this is fun. Cool. Real Racing Productions. B Mason, if you were to update the 392 Hemi and Hellcat for the next gen, what would you change? Bit of a fun question. Absolutely, it's fun, and I have an answer for that. So here's what I would do. For the 392, the first thing I would do is change the cam profile, bring the LSA in just a little bit, and put an intake manifold on it that did not choke it down the way that our intake manifold chokes it. I would take the design that we have now, balloon that thing out a little bit on the throat, put a slightly larger throttle body, about an 87 millimeter, onto that throat, have the intake a little bit taller and a little bit larger for your plenum area, and make in the same design, but make the runners a little bit bigger, just a little bit of color there. Open that thing up, but leave the same length. That's what I would do with the 392, and I would take that with one of my cams in it, but for an EPA OK cam, would take that car from 485 horsepower to about 525, 530 horsepower as an EPA rated engine. That's what I would do with it. Get that thing up to, now with an aftermarket cam, you'd pick up a little bit more, but again, excuse me, the reality is that you can only take it so far and still fall within those lines. That's what I would do with the 392. The exhaust system's fine. I wouldn't worry about that one bit. But with just a little bit tighter LSA, you would be able to actually get away with long tubes with the car at that point, and you might see an improvement if you put long tubes on that car. Would probably pick up about 8 to 10, whereas right now long tubes don't pick up anything, and that'd just be more to do with the exhaust scavenging. Even just bringing them in a couple of degrees would certainly make a big difference. So that's what I would do there for the 392. And for the Hellcat, what I would do with the Hellcat is I would work with IHI, who's that manufacturer, to have a more efficient rotor pack. And I would option that car with, oh, and by the way, going back to the 392 cars, I would develop a 331 rear gear set for that car, or at least a 323. That's what I would do for that car. For the Hellcat, get with IHI, see if you can find a little bit more efficient rotor pack for it. I would pop the boost up just a little bit on that car, and I would work my ass off for both cars to have flex fuel technology. That's what I would do for both of those cars. Let's see. Toby Rama says, in his town, we have an old Celine Focus. That was the only car in history to come factory with NOS. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. I don't think it came with nitrous oxide. No, that I would do some more research on that, but no, there was no car that came with nitrous oxide. Zephyr R&D, how much is left on the table with the Hellcat suspension? All of the rear BMR control arms to remove the deflection and bushings, Demon Springs, maybe a traditional shock and strut. So what a couple of guys have found out is that you can go to coilovers and reduce the weight in terms of suspension for the Hellcats. It's not by a ton, though. I think you might be saving a grand total of maybe 30 pounds at the most. I mean, 30 pounds is 30 pounds. It might actually be a little bit less than that, but I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But, for the suspension, the funny thing is that the Demon is doing just fine with the stock suspension. And by the way, the Demon suspension is identical to the SXT suspension that you get in a V6. There's literally no difference in that back cradle as far as what parts are going where. At least not that I can tell. Nothing different in the hard parts anyway. So the BMR lower control arm or lower trailing arms, I do like those because they do help to quell a little bit of that deflection, which is always a good thing. Spawn makes a 3-bar kit. Not really a huge fan of the Spawn kit. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with them. It's just that I don't know that there's a great benefit or a great increase in performance with that kit. But if it's my car, put a diff brace on it, get the BMRs on the back of it, and you'll be good. You'll be in good shape with that. Let's see. Bad Hemi 300S is asking, are the 262 non-limited slip differential gears any good for his 5.7 300S, or should I upgrade to the 309? If it's in the budget to upgrade to a set of 309s, I would definitely do it. But the 262s aren't going to hurt you for just, driving the thing around and going from point A to point B. If you want the added performance and the benefit of having the extra traction, then I would definitely go with the 309. 300 SRT8 saying, good morning, Mr. B. Well, good morning to you too. Dave Zappa says, Professor Mopar, would you consider coming to Michigan for the Woodward Dream Cruise or even Mopar Nationals in Newark, Ohio? Yeah, I would. If I could get the time away, I would go to both of those. I love Ohio. Always have, was always shown a very good time. It's on High Street right there at the university. So very good time there. Let's see, in Michigan, I'd love to go to Michigan. I think I have a really good time. I just have to get the time to do it, and I'd love to do it. Let's see. Oh, Trude and Zephyr are chatting over here. Let them do their thing. Let's see. Tubby Ron said he heard rumors about Ford releasing a new Gran Torino, but I guess with them discontinuing every car they make, the Gran Torino is pretty much out of the question. Yep. Yeah, it is. It's just a shame that they don't get on board with that, or the Galaxy was another one. We've got Natalie Hicks letting me know that my wife is hot. That's a capital H with an exclamation mark. Miss Hicks, I would agree with that. She is smoking hot, and yeah. As a matter of fact, that's what her name is when it comes up on my phone. It says, "Your smoking hot wife." So, yep, she's definitely got it going on. Thank you for that. Not only is she very hot, but she is incredibly sweet to me, takes great care of me, and is a fantastic cook to boot. So, what more can a man ask for? Not very much. Tony M with the damn Nat with the call out. Yep, she's definitely hollering out here. Let's see. Jay Poma at that Natalie Hicks. Let's see. Jay Poma at Dave Zapp. I'm just a few minutes down, 696 from Woodward. Oh man, I'm jealous about that. I'd love to check that out. Zephyr R&D is asking, what do I think about the Gen 6 ZL1 1LE? Freaking fantastic car. That version of that car is absolutely perfect for what that platform is really capable of doing. It's perfect in the fact that you have everything that's good about that car is accentuated in that platform. I almost think that there's a lot that is left untapped for that platform in the lower tiers of that car, if that makes any sense. And I hope I'm saying that right, but I guess really where I'm going with that, let me rephrase all of that, or let me start over by saying that is how the Camaro should come from the factory. And I think any other use of that platform is you're not really taking advantage of it as a whole. That there's not enough good side of that car to make a softer version of it. The visibility is bad. The interior plastics are not that great. There's just so much about that car that doesn't scream pedestrian, just a transportation appliance. But when you put it in the guise of that ZL1 1LE, God, then it really does make sense. And I'm actually a big fan of that car in that setup. True Day saying, at me, what are your thoughts on the Red Eye not getting the same transmission as the Demon? Doesn't really make sense to me if you end up doing the same mods like Pulleys 85, Race Fuel Tune, stuff like that. HP90 is a great transmission. They're going to offer it with the 309, so that helps and actually helps to take a little bit of the wear and tear out of the transmission by running a more aggressive gear. I know it may sound counterintuitive, but it's just not loading up the clutches as hard because it's just simply easier to turn the tires. I'm a bit on the fence with that because, again, the HP90 is so robust, and I don't know that everybody with a red eye is going to be beating on them the way that on a prepared drag strip. But even if they were, that HP90 will hold just fine, and I think that we're just going to see history repeating itself with that transmission. Go74 saying that he's going to say it. We need a Hellcat 300. Americans want big, fast cars, not these small-ass little sissy cars. I'll agree with that. If it sucks that the UAE has got the SRT 300 now, and the Aussies have got the SRT 300, and we don't. Freaking American gangster hot rod, and we don't have one. And yes, they do need to put a Hellcat engine in that. Toby Rama saying, Saturday morning Mopar chat. Woo, hell yeah. Real Racing Productions saying, amen, brother. Nothing puts a smile on your face like a Mopar. Absolutely not. You cannot get to the level of just childlike euphoria the way that you can behind the wheel of a 392 or a Hellcat powered car. Let's see. Get some Dave Zappa saying, let's get B Mason up here for some events. That'd be fun. I'd love to. Grab the missus and let her check out all the hot rods. I'd chat with you fellas. Let's see. True Day saying, I've always loved Mopars. When I was a kid, I really fell in love with the IROC Z. So did I. I love me some IROC. Hope Chevy listens to their customers and improves the platform. The competition between the big three has been great. It really has, and not only has the competition been great, but to see Mopar flourish in the way that they have. Look, even if I wasn't a Mopar fan, you've got to sit back and stand in awe of what they've been able to do and the latitude that they've been able to give their engineers. They're almost giving us everything that we want from the factory. And again, sometimes that blessing is a curse because they don't react as well to mods. Aftermarket manufacturers kind of step away from it a little bit, but to be honest with you, it's tough to improve on what they're giving us. So absolutely. Let me see something here. Do a couple more of these, and then I've got to shut her down. We're coming up on almost 2 hours, and I got to be up early in the morning. Today's saying, at me, totally agree with you on the flex fuel for stock Mopars. That would be a dream. Well, not only would it be a dream, but it would at least bring the thing into 2018. I mean, everything else is flex fuel seemingly. So, nah, but seriously, that would be fantastic. And as a added bonus, the 85 is green, burns clean. So, God, we'd be doing our part for the environment while kicking the crap out of some Mustangs and Camaros. Truday's asking, do I think the front and rear strut tower braces are a worthy upgrade for spirited driving on the streets? Not really. Don't spend your money on that. Define spirited. The one thing that the front and rear strut tower braces do is they do give the car a bit more solid feel. Chris, if you saw the last one, Hayden G, Chris has got on his Hellcat, he's got the front and rear brace, and he's also got the Petty Garage subframe connectors as well. And he loves them. He said it does make the car feel more solid, so definitely something to consider. Let's see. Tubby Rama, I don't know what you're talking about. He says, I was wrong about the 05 Celine S121 Focus coming factory with nitrous oxide. However, its engine was NOS already. Are you talking about new old stock or nitrous oxide? Let's see. Stephen Kennedy, beep. Hey, y'all. Hi, B. Hey, what's going on? Stephen Kennedy, nice to see you in. And Chaos of the Unicorns, which I still think is one of the best freaking tags here. So, Mason, do you think Dodge will ever bring an all-wheel drive system back to the V8 Charger like they did up until 2014? Those things are stupid quick on the street. I don't know. I don't know if they ever will, but I will say this. I think that in time, you're going to see a lot of cars going to all-wheel drive, but I don't know that Mopar is going to be so quick to bring that back to the V8 platform. for the main reason being, it does nothing for you in terms of fuel economy. So for the small number of us that might really like that technology and would get into that, in this situation, they're going to need to keep those fuel economy numbers up as high as they can, and that all-wheel drive is going to sting them. So I don't see it. Let's see. Dave Zappa, B. Mason, are you in your 40s? Just wondering. He's a 70s and 80s kid. Yes, I am. I am 44 years old. I'm right in the middle of 40s. So I kind of bridge that gap a little bit. A little bit of 70s, a little bit of 80s. I still remember when people used to smoke cigarettes in the grocery store. They smoked them everywhere. I remember that as a kid. That was some pretty cool shit. Let's see. True Day, thoughts on the new mid-engine Corvette? I absolutely love it. Recent news says they are having a redesign the electrical system. And, oh my goodness, a Corvette having an electrical problem. No freaking way. Anyway, sorry about that. I just had to, that's kind of a running joke between me and my wife. Recent news said they are having to redesign the electrical system and delayed 6 months. 01 is a monster of engineering, though. Tough to improve upon. I will agree with that. I will say that that is going to be a car that will be very difficult to improve upon. You know, you can only take the front engine rear drive platform so far before you start to, you know, run into the inherent physics of handling. The mid-engine is typically always going to do better. You'll hear of front mid-engines. Panos Esperante was one of the more popular cars from back in the day that was a front mid-engine design. But or at least let me rephrase that. It took that design element, you know, to a bit more of an extreme, I guess, in a way, bringing that engine pretty far back from the front axle or from the center line of the front wheels. But when you look at it realistically, you know, a rear mid-engine design is always going to be better in that respect. And I don't know. I love the front engine rear drive layout, though. That traditional front engine rear drive. God, there's just something about it that I love. And that's why that 01 is going to always be awesome. Go 74 saying, holy crap, I'm only 22. I'm actually twice your age. That's pretty cool stuff. Literally old enough to be your dad. Cranman, my man B. Mason. What's up, Cranman? Dave Zappa, got it. Born 74. I love it. Another awesome late night show. Thank you. Damn, Zephyr R&D. Thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. And so does Revlon. Thank you so much for the contribution to the cause. He says, thanks for all real answers. I know it's Mopar night, but you are well-versed in all types of vehicles and love learning from you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And yeah, I mean, typically, you know, it's always Mopar chat. That's, you know, I'm typically giving advice on the Mopars, but yes, I'm very well-versed with the Fords, with the Chevrolet platforms, and with other platforms as well. Not as versed, mainly focusing on the American stuff, but, you know, but all years, all generations of those cars as well. I just love it, man. It's something that I really love to do. I love interacting with you guys and, you know, learning, you know, as I'm going along, learning about you guys. Y'all are, you know, hearing what I have to say. I just really do like it. So thank you all very much. I do appreciate you very much, Zephyr. I truly do. Thank you. Let's see, Chaos of the Unicorns. Fuel economy. No. It's about smiles per gallon, not miles per gallon. Absolutely. And all-wheel drive V8s will put a lot of smiles on your face. Yeah, they will. And the other fun thing about all-wheel drives and V8s is that with the proper application of nitrous oxide and gasoline, they become a freaking roller coaster ride. That thing will absolutely plant you. If you ever never ridden anything with all-wheel drive and nitrous, there is a creepy, quick, creepy, funky feeling about that. So yeah, that's always fun. Go 74 saying this was awesome. Happy to be part of the Mopar family. Well, always happy to be part of the Mopar family. Absolutely happy to have you part of the show. Real Racing Production said, I should represent Dodge's marketing team. I would love to work for Dodge and their marketing team. Maybe correct some of the directions that they've gone. We're going to wrap it up here. Cranman saying, I see Dodge as the company that says, if we can, we will. They already showed they could with the all-wheel drive SCV8 with the Trackhawk. No kidding. It's a point I made in a video a while back. So it wouldn't count. The all-wheel V8 was just in the Charger. Just my thoughts. I believe that, brother. I'm right there with you. Holy crap, just popped up. True Day, thank you very much. I appreciate the contribution to the cause. Man, I appreciate that. Cheers to all of y'all, by the way. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Definitely love doing these live shows. My thing is, it's really about the interaction with you guys and having fun and talking about these things and, letting you guys, kind of have some of my insights as somebody who's kind of been in and around this stuff for a long time. Definitely always good to hear y'all's points of views as well. So, well, guys, we are coming up on 2 hours. Thank everybody for joining us. For all my contributors, thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I truly do appreciate that. And want to make sure that everybody gets a chance here to finish up. And then we are going to wrap it up. Toby Rum is saying that he's talking about the nitrous oxide. The Celine Focus was nitrous oxide. Oh, nitrous oxide ready from the factory. That just means that the block was more stout. Several of those blocks are 2JZ is a perfect example of a block that can handle a ton. Cranman says we definitely appreciate, man. I appreciate that very much. True Day saying long live Mopar. Absolutely, long live Mopar. Long dominate Mopar. Real Racing Productions, take care, my friend. Thank you, Real Racing Productions. Y'all have a good night. Jay Poma, thank you very much. Appreciate it with the arm flex. I love it. Take care, guys. Go 74. Have a good night. Phoenix 98. Peace. Shades out. Love y'all. Take care. That's a wrap. Adios.